It's Powerback time on the Gutsy podcast, your 20-minute boost to reclaim and refocus your energy. Get ready to have bursts of clarity, a boost of confidence, and the practical steps you need to make gutsy moves forward. You've got big things to do, so let's get your power back. I'm doing something today on the Gutsy podcast that I've never done before, and I don't know if I'm going to do it again. I am sharing with you an exclusive listen into an audio lesson from inside the Gutsy Collective. If you're not yet familiar with the Gutsy Collective, it is my community membership. This is the place where women come when they are ready to get past the thing that has been stopping them. Some are coming for a personal reset to refocus on themselves. Some are ready to make big gutsy changes in their life, but they need the community, the support, and the accountability to move forward. Some are refiguring shit out. They're not really sure who they are or what they actually want, but in this space, every single day they are figuring it out. And this isn't just like a rah-rah, positive bullshit kind of space. This is a space where you're actually getting in, rolling up your sleeves, and doing the work, but in a way where you feel supported and you have the information to know how. And that's delivered to them through audio lessons. So every single month we have a specific focus. In the past, we've done things like inner child healing, breaking free from people pleasing, how to find your own personal clarity and to be able to create a plan from that so you can move forward, and so much more. This month, we are focusing on managing stress, something that I know that we are all insanely familiar with. The first week of every month, everyone gets access to the new audio lesson. So I'm teaching you how to overcome these things. And the very first lesson under managing stress is not a predictable one. We're not just going down the exercise more and eat better and sleep better routine, which, don't get me wrong, that's important. But in standard Laura Ora fashion, I go a different route. We're going to talk about breaking up with the concept of being busy, because it's become so normal to be busy that it's become abnormal to be still. And I know that you're ready to change that. So today's Powerback episode is that first lesson. You're going to get a sneak peek into what it's like to be fully and completely supported inside the Gutsy Collective, and learn just how quickly you can start to make positive changes that move your life forward. If you're interested in getting access to the rest of the lessons that go with today's episode, go to the link in the show notes and start your 2-week free trial for the Gutsy Collective. One last quick note, you're going to hear me reference downloading the workbook. That is going to be exclusive for Gutsy Collective members only. So 2 options. 1, you can join and get it and download it. Or 2, you can simply use a notepad or a notebook and jot down your answers as you go along. All right, friend, here we go. Hey, you gutsy lady. Welcome to a new month's focus. We're digging into managing stress. No matter what time of year is going on, no matter what's happening in your life, there are always opportunities to learn how to better handle stressful situations. I'm kind of curious, do you ever feel like you're being pulled in every freaking direction, yet somehow you have to get it all done and also fit yourself in there? And when you're in the thick of that kind of stuff, it feels impossible. Here's the reality though. Life stresses, they're not going to go away. Things are always going to happen. There's always going to be moving pieces and different elements. But learning how to handle them differently can be the difference between a complete meltdown and a relaxing evening. So this month, we're going to focus on learning some simple yet incredibly effective ways to regain control, find and connect with your inner peace, and keep momentum so you can keep going, even in the midst of things feeling dense, heavy, or chaotic. We're going to start the month off by talking about breaking up with the habit of being busy. Okay, we're going to go into that today. But then throughout the rest of the month, we're going to talk about, learning about micro and macro stressors and understanding how to manage and handle those differently, and some things that we tend to do as people. You're going to learn how to know when your body is communicating with you. It's sending signals all the time, but are we listening? And then we're going to end the month out by identifying and utilizing tools that work specifically for you. So I'm going to take a little bit of a different approach with this managing stress topic, right? Like a lot of people are going to come at you and say, you need to exercise and get sleep and prioritize your health. And are those things true? Absolutely. but there's always an underlying reason as to why we're not doing that in the first place. And that's the goodness that we're going to dig into. This month is intended to help you see things from a new perspective and ultimately remind you that you have way more tools and resources than you even remember sometimes in a given moment. And sometimes it's the simplicity of a reset, a restart, a refocus, hearing something from a new perspective that helps things to click and so that you can make lasting changes. If you haven't done so already, this is your reminder to download or print out your workbook and follow through the month. There's going to be some really great prompts that's going to help you to have reflective moments and have your own aha moments. All right, let's go ahead and dig into this. First, I hear this from you and other members of the group quite often. And it's like, this content, this information is coming exactly when I needed to hear it. How do you do that? And how, I don't really know. It's Spidey sense. I'm tapping into the energy of the collective as a whole. But I also want you to know that a lot of times when I'm creating this content, it stems off of real life experiences, either stuff that I'm going through, stuff that my clients are going through, stuff that you in the collective are going through. It's no coincidence, that's for sure. And this month is no different. So the irony here is my task this month is to create valuable content around managing stress for you. And wouldn't you know, the universe is like, why don't we put this to the test, Laura? And while I haven't been overly stressed, I have definitely been more stressed this month than I have been in quite some time. I've got a lot of moving pieces happening. I've got a lot of stuff coming together. I've invested in myself through a speaking academy. So there's a lot of work that goes into that. We relaunched the Gutsy podcast at the time of me recording this. It's all amazing stuff, but it's felt a little bit heavier this month than it has in previous months. And so I find myself in these situations where I'm like, Laura, this is the opportunity to practice what you are about to teach in the collective. So everything that I'm sharing with you, I have been actively utilizing myself, and I can tell you that this shit works. The simplicity of this stuff. I know that sometimes we want to make it a lot more complicated than it needs to be, but the simplicity in the change, the simplicity in the recognizing, it is so monumentally powerful when you just stop, put goodness back in, get refocused, and take intentional action. So today I want to talk about this concept of breaking up with the busy. I can't tell you how many conversations either I have been a part of, so I'm not excluded from this, okay? That either I have been a part of or I have overheard, where there is just this glamorization of how busy we are. I'm sure you've been in this situation and you've likely said this as well. And again, this whole lesson is really just about shining a light on this, because most of the time we don't even realize that we're doing it, right? It's so normal to complain. It's so normal to talk about how busy I am and I've got this going on, I've got that going on and all this stuff. Or someone will come up to me that I haven't seen in a while and they're like, oh, are you busy? And it's like, there's just this really interesting measure of success and a forever moving finish line for achievement when we talk about being busy. And it becomes so incredibly normal that we then compare ourselves to the level of busyness of others. Well, they're busier than me, so that must mean that I'm behind. They're busier than me, so that must mean that they're more successful. And then we try to outdo one another. I've got to up my busy, or things are calm, things are not busy, and therefore now I think that things are falling apart, or I'm missing something, or I have to fill the time. And all the while, when we're just stacking up this busyness glamorization, we're maxing out our stress levels. We're lowering our quality of life. We're boycotting the shit out of our health and feeling unfulfilled and tired every single step of the way. But it has become so normal that it feels abnormal to be still. I will say that again. It has become so normal to be busy that it has become abnormal to be still. This, my friend, is the root we've got to work with. Because I can tell you to exercise all day long. I can tell you to get good sleep. I can tell you to prioritize yourself. I can tell you to have great sex. But you know what? All of those things are going to be firework moments. Because if we're not treating the underlying root, the problem will persist. Now, glamorizing being busy isn't always an external thing. It's not always a conversation. It's not always complaining. It's not always comparing. A lot of times it's an inside job. It's the internal conversation that you're having with yourself. It's this insisting that you have to have a packed life and a packed calendar in order to have some sort of worth. We've got to stop accepting busy as a way of life. And that comes with undoing learned behavior. I mean, we're talking about decades worth of people talking about being busy and how that measures up to success and how that measures up to your self-worth and that you're proving yourself to something or someone. And then it gets crammed in your brain hole and you start to make this your own belief. And then guess what? You fight yourself. So that when you want to go sit on the couch at night and watch a movie, you can't because your brain is going 10,000 miles an hour thinking about all the things that you need to do. It's when you want to go out for a date night or go away with your girlfriends for an afternoon and you're like, nope, we can't do that because I have so much stuff to do. Now, don't get me wrong. There are busier moments, right? There are seasons of life where it requires more of our time and attention. But the problem is, we don't stop it there. We adopt that as a way of life, a lifestyle, a way that we make decisions, a form of measurement. And this idea of glamorizing being busy is feeding your stress like a big, hairy fucking monster with a slab of meat. It's likely why you've not been able to move forward. It's likely why you're not experiencing fulfillment, why you're chronically feeling stressed, why you're feeling tired all the time, why you feel like you are always doing a bunch of things but not getting anywhere. There's certainly some other factors that we're going to dig into throughout the month, but I want you to just really hone in and see how this idea of glamorization of being busy is fueling your stress, and it's stopping you from being able to move forward. One of the newest things that I've really been having to be really, really intentional about is that question when people are like, oh, are you busy? Oh, how busy are you? Because it's not always your own internal dialogue either. Sometimes it's the external dialogue that's coming at you. And I'm finding that in this situation where I'm being asked this question, I'm like, I no longer want to submit to the idea that I have to be busy. Holy bananas, Batman. Like I spent so much of my life running, skipping, doing cartwheels, hustling, grinding, and I don't want to do that anymore. In fact, I've made very intentional choices to shift my lifestyle to move away from that. But there's these like threads, right? And they're not necessarily my threads, they're external threads. And so when I'm asked this question, I'm like, I'm not going to feed into that because no, I'm not busy. But does that make you uncomfortable? Or does that make me uncomfortable? Maybe a little bit of both. We have to be willing to sit in that discomfort of both our own and the person or people across from us. Because when people hear that, they know that I'm an entrepreneur and they hear that I'm not busy, they immediately equate that to I'm failing. I'm not making enough money. Things aren't working out. And knowing that, am I making that true about me? Am I absorbing their projected thoughts and feelings? Am I feeding into their assumptions? Am I willing to stand in my own truth and allow them to sit in their own discomfort? Ooh, that is richness, my friend. And look, it's not like you're out to make people uncomfortable intentionally, right? You're not like, let me just go around and see how weird I can make things. But you're not responsible for making everyone around you comfortable for something that you feel incredibly comfortable with. I'm okay not being busy anymore because I've learned actually that I'm quite more productive when I'm not busy. I am healthier when I'm not glamorizing being busy. I feel better mentally and physically when I'm not packing my schedule. I feel better for and about myself when I decline something when I didn't want to do it. Holding your calendar sacred, holding your truth sacred, and owning the fuck out of knowing that I know what I want for my life, or at least I have a direction. And because you're in the Gutsy Collective, I know that part of that is not living a life where you are working yourself to death, going to bed unfulfilled, and then doing it all over again. I want you to start noticing when people ask you that question. How do you feel? How is it landing for you? What is the moment like? What is their anticipation? Give yourself permission to just kind of evaluate it, even if it's silently, or you're just noticing it, or it's something that you can go back and think on or journal on later when you're alone. Because it's a fascinating exercise. And what I've been doing when people are like, oh, Laura, how busy are you? I just call it for what it is. I'm like, I don't do busy, but I'm really freaking happy and things are working. Or I'm actually not busy at all and it's fantastic. I just say whatever I feel is right for me, and especially in that moment. But I sure as hell am not going to submit to the idea that I must be busy in order for me to be worthy, successful, healthy, or happy. And that is what I am suggesting here with you today, is to start looking at the glorification of busy, of packing things on, of saying yes when you wanted to say no, overcommitting, taking too many things onto your calendar, trying to be a super mom or a super wife or a super woman. That the way to the thing that you actually want is not through a measure of your busyness. It's through a measure of your intentionality, of your consistency, of your honoring of self. And learning that, you know what? Sometimes people are going to feel really uncomfortable by my life's decisions, and that's okay, because it's not my job to make them comfortable with my own shit. So my first question to you this month and in your workbook is, how are you currently glamorizing being busy? How is that showing up in your life? How are you communicating it, whether to yourself or externally to others? Now that I've shined a spotlight on this, anytime you say the word or hear the word busy, you're going to be like, Laura. And good. We're going to put that in the bank with the word should as well. Now, the second piece of this is actually going just a layer deeper. And you're probably thinking, Laura, that was probably good enough, but here we go. This is like the root of the root. Understanding the why behind the behavior. This is where we really get to make some deep movement. So my question to you is, what is being chronically stressed giving you? And you might say, it's giving me a fucking headache. It's giving me a pain in the ass. It's giving me heart palpitations. It's giving me depression or anxiety. Yes, all of those things can be true. But I'm talking about the behind the scenes stuff. The box that you've kicked underneath the bed, the closet that we're not opening up yet. What is being chronically stressed giving you? Examples. Is it giving you an edge? Is it giving you something to talk about? Conversation to have community? Is it providing attention? Is it giving you perceived success? Is it making you feel like you have safety and control? Is it simply familiarity? This is the deeper of the deep that I want you to really sit with. When I was chronically stressed and glamorizing being busy, my deeper underlying fear was that if I was not busy, then everything would fall apart. And what that meant was that we wouldn't have any money, we wouldn't have any clients, we would lose our home, and no one would like me. Seems like a pretty solid reason to keep being stressed, doesn't it? But the reworking here is acknowledging this part of ourselves, to really allow yourself to go into this place and say, okay, what am I actually afraid of? By not being busy, what am I actually fearing? And what is being stressed or busy giving me to secure me? So the unpack here first is, what are you glamorizing? What form of busyness are you currently glamorizing? Then recognizing, what is that giving you? What are you getting from that? And then what is the underlying fear that's feeding it? When you go through this process and you're really truly honest with yourself, you will start to recognize how this chronic stress can be changed. This is learned behavior. This is things that you were grown up with. These are things that you were taught. These were survival techniques and mechanisms. But when you go through this process and unpack it, you start to see how much power you really have. What is the new story that you want to tell instead? What is the new feeling that you want to experience? Give yourself the opportunity to really, truly own that. I wanted peace and calmness and white space and not to feel like everything was on fire 24 hours a day. And that meant challenging my relationship with being busy and my deeply rooted fear that I was going to lose everything if I wasn't. This requires you to make a change. This requires you to get real and honest and to see it without judgment, without criticism, right? These are things that you've learned and have grasped along the way, and they are what they are, and they have served you in some form or fashion. But they're not going to continue to serve you in the direction that you're headed. A place where you are experiencing joy and fulfillment, and you're trying new things, and you're laughing again, and you've got your spark back, and you feel more solid and grounded within yourself. You know more about who you are and what you actually want. You're fucking living again, my friend. And you have the ability to do this. We're going to walk through more of the how as we go throughout this month. But for now, I really just want you to sit and marinate with this. This is going to be the foundation that sets you up for success, not only for this month, but for the rest of your freaking life. All these questions are in your workbook, and there is a discussion going on inside the collective. So remember that there is power in the vulnerability and there is support. So if you have questions, you want to unpack something together, you want to just share a story or a memory that's come up, the discussion space inside the collective is there for you. And so am I. I'll be hopping around answering your questions and giving the love and the support that you deserve. All right, my friend, you just got an exclusive sneak peek into the first of 4 lessons from the Gutsy Collective, where we are diving into managing stress. If you want to get access to the other 3 lessons that accompany this one, plus the workbook and the community where you get to have conversations and a live Q&A session with me to get your questions answered, then scroll down in the show notes. I've got a special for you. So if you're listening to this in the month of November of 2024, we have a Black Friday special going on. You can score up to $300 in savings and be on the list to get a free one-on-one coaching session with yours truly. If you're listening to this after that, no worries. There's still a 2-week free trial to get started. So just go down into the show notes, click on the link, and sign up today. If you have questions about the Gutsy Collective or other ways that I can support you, come find me. DM me on social media. I am super active. I'm the one answering you. You can find me using @thatlauraora on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. And as always, until I see you next time, stay gutsy.